Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of my look at Kendo UI Datasource and KendoGrid with mydigitalstructure. My name is Robert Webster from OneUp IT. So let's jump straight into it. So first off, I'm going to start by logging into developer.oneblankspace.com with my username and password, and I've actually recreated the site from part 1's video just to show the differences in how they're implemented and keep them separate. So nothing new is going on here, it's just I have recreated the site and created a new one that just enables contact editing rather than just searching just for the videos. So you can see it's a new site, and I've just linked all the attachments that were there before. But the new one that I've changed is contact edit. At the moment it's the same as the other one, and we'll actually go through and edit. So you can see that I'm going to go into site 1507 instead of 1506 as it was in part 1. Just to show you it's the same functionality, I'm just going to log in again. And we see all the data come up, and it's just doing a contact person search on the mydigitalstructure platform and putting it into a KendoGrid as established in part 1. So now heading back to the Kendo website, we're actually going to look at Inline Editing, which is under demos, web demos on the Kendo UI website. So this allows us to add new records and edit and update and delete. So this is what we're going to replicate on our site. So we can actually have a look and see that the data source doesn't actually change. Because we've already put in the read, update, create and destroy, we can actually just bind it to the same one, just with a few different bits and pieces, including a toolbar and an extra column which allows us to edit and destroy. And also we've just got to put a flag on it that says editable is true basically, but we're going to make it inline. So if we go across to our code from last time, you'll see that the customer data source is there. So at the moment we're not changing any of that. We will later in this video, but at the moment we're just going to focus on getting the grid right. So I'm going to put in the toolbar of create so we can add one, and editable equals inline. And I've also added a column at the bottom there where you can see command, edit, destroy. These are Kendo UI terms, and they'll call back to the update and destroy transports in the data source itself. So now that our KendoGrid is fairly good to go, we've added our editable bits and pieces, including the edit and destroy. We'll have to make a few changes just to our data source. So these are purely for the mydigitalstructure platform. So now we're coming down to working with mydigitalstructure. So we've defined the model, the fields, and we've said nullable equals true. I'm actually going to change this to false, so that means that we can pass through a blank ID. This is important when we're actually creating a new record, so I need to change that. Now the next thing we need to change is up at the parameter map layer. So because when we're passing through a create to the mydigitalstructure platform, it's not actually passing us back all the stuff that we sent through originally, all the parameters. So I'm going to have to make a copy of that at the client side and store that just so I have that information. So I've created an object called oTempObject. So this is going to work for our updates and our creates, just to create a carbon copy of the parameters that are being passed through initially. So this is what I've had to do to get it to work with mydigitalstructure. There might be a simpler way, but this is working, so at the moment if it's working, I'm happy. So as you see, I've set oTempObject equals data for the create, and I've set it for the update as well. Now when the data is actually returned, we actually do a check here. This is purely for mydigitalstructure to make sure that we're not returning a rows of data, we're returning a single line of data. Now when we're returning a single line of data, it's whether we're doing an update or a create or a remove basically. So I want to actually capture this ID that's being returned and add it to the otemp data which is going to be returned as well. So I want to actually make certain that that ID is held when it gets created. MyDigitalStructure creates IDs as you need them, so we can't assign an ID at the time of creation. We actually need to capture that when it's returned, but it doesn't return all the fields, it just returns that ID and says whether it's been updated or removed or created or added. Okay, so that's what this is all for at this stage. So in the schema, the data is actually the data being returned, the parameter map is the data being sent. So we're capturing it in the OTemp object, and when it gets returned, then we're actually doing that as well. So we'll go back, we'll upload this into the site, and then we'll check out whether it works or not. Okay, it's finished uploading, so let's just do a refresh on site 1507, and we'll obviously have to log in order to generate the grid. And we'll look into Firebug, and we can see that contact person search has happened as usual. So we'll click on add, and you'll notice that no call has happened yet. So I'm just going to type in a test 75, test surname, and I'm going to test the home phone number, and then click the update button. And then straight away you'll see that it's been stored in the grid, but it's also made a call to contact person manage because this is our create transport. You'll notice that the ID is null because we're creating something, and the ID has been returned. So the ID in our data schema will actually get bound using that OTemp object to that row. So if we do any edits on that row, then the edit will pass through that object. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete. So it's deleted, manage remove, and we'll actually see that the manage remove itself is actually posted in the ID which we just created. So the OTemp object is actually binding it correctly, and it's come back and it says removed. So we're good. Now let's try the next thing. So we've done add, we've done destroy, or we've done create and destroy. Now let's just do edit. So I'm editing one that already exists. I'm just going to change the home phone number and then click the update button and see how that works. Update, so another manage is called. This time we're actually posting through an ID and the details that we've changed, so home phone. You'll notice that first name and surname gets posted back as well, even though we didn't change them. And you'll notice that the response says updated. So there you have it, we've successfully created, read data, updated and destroyed data from the Kendo UI data source using the grid and mydigitalstructure. So going back to Kendo, you'll see that we've only focused on inline editing for this video. You can do a whole bunch of other stuff, including pop-up editing, even using a custom editor. So this should give you a framework of how to actually structure your data source for mydigitalstructure, and moving forward you should just be able to iterate on the development of the KendoGrid and add your own parameters for sorts and things like that. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please post in the comments below. I'm Robert Webster from OneUp IT, and this was how to use Kendo UI and the data source with mydigitalstructure. Thanks for watching. Bye.